Most drivers beg for 5 stars, but for me, a 1-star review is a goldmine. Imagine a world where your reputation is your currency, but the exchange rate is completely inverted. While other drivers sweat over their ratings, I am actively trying to get the worst reviews possible. The more my passengers complain, the more the universe rewards me with luxury cars and real estate. It is a strange way to make a living, but being a nightmare pays incredibly well. Not long ago, I was at rock bottom. My boss scammed me and my girlfriend dumped me. 6 years of love thrown away because I could not give her the luxury life she craved. I remember the sting of that phone call, being dumped by a girl I supported for years. I was just a broke guy in a manual Buick, driving through the city with a broken heart. Then this system bound to me, turning every toxic passenger into a massive financial windfall. Suddenly, I went from a struggling driver to the second largest shareholder of a luxury hotel group. I even own the financial building where my old boss still works, just waiting for my revenge. Now, I am face to face with my ex and her new rich sugar daddy at my own hotel. The look of disgust on her face when she saw me at the restaurant was absolutely priceless. They think I am still a pathetic loser mocking my status while they enjoy a meal I own. She thinks she found a king, but she's actually dining with a peasant compared to me. They have no idea that one word from me can destroy their entire social standing instantly. It is time to stop playing nice and let them see my true strength. Let's dive into the story and see how I turned bad reviews into a billion-dollar empire. I had finally had enough. After a massive blow-up with my boss, I walked out of the advertising agency for good. I had landed a huge deal, but the man cheated me out of my commission because we only had a verbal agreement. I could not stomach working for a snake like that. I headed to the parking lot, ready to start my life over. That is when my phone rang. I thought it was my girlfriend Feifei calling about her birthday dinner tonight. But it was not her. It was her best friend, coldly telling me that Feifei had officially dumped me. I was stunned. I have seen people break up via text or call, but using a third party is a new low. Then came the text. She claimed I could not give her the quality of life she wanted, and we lived in different worlds. It was a classic story. She probably found some rich heir and decided I was no longer a useful stepping stone. I was not going to take that lying down. I sent back a message exposing her hypocrisy and the way she used me. She tried to call and video chat immediately after, but I did not give her the satisfaction. I just deleted her. Most people think I am struggling, but I have a bit of a safety net. My parents passed away years ago. After the courts settled everything, I was left with a decent house and a fair amount of cash in the bank. Still, I did not want to be a lazy heir. I worked a day job and drove for a ride-hailing app at night. I was earning way above the average salary, but for Feifei, it was never enough. She wanted luxury and status. She came from a broken home with a paralyzed father. I was willing to carry that burden, but she wanted a shortcut. We were together for 6 years. It hurts to lose that history, but once a heart changes, there is no going back. I decided to clear my head by driving the ride-hailing app full-time for a while. I packed my life into my car. By 8 in the evening, I decided to take one last order before treating myself to a dinner I had already paid for. I grabbed a request from a passenger just a kilometer away and followed the navigation to a residential complex. I called the passenger to let her know I was outside in my white Buick, but she sounded completely clueless. When I asked where she was, she told me she was still putting on her foundation and needed 10 more minutes. Then she had the nerve to tell me she needed another half hour to get ready for a date. No driver in the world is going to wait 30 minutes for a passenger. I told her I was canceling the order. She threatened to complain about me, and she did. She claimed I was an unqualified driver with a terrible attitude. I did not let it slide. I uploaded the recording of our call to customer service to prove she was unreasonable. I was exhausted and ready to head to the hotel when something impossible happened. A mechanical voice echoed in my mind. It told me that I met the conditions for binding and asked if I wanted to accept the system. I have heard of cashback for good reviews, but a system that rewards me for bad ones? Now that is a first. As a longtime fan of web novels, I didn't hesitate. I agreed to the binding immediately. It felt like fate. A light curtain appeared and the system confirmed the bond. The rules were simple: get complained about and get rewarded. Rewards could be anything from cash and luxury cars to skills and technology. I just had to be hated by passengers. To kick things off, the system gave me a massive gift for a previous complaint: 28% equity in the Peninsula Hotel Group. Just like that, I became the second largest shareholder of a luxury hotel group. All I had to do was wait for dividends. The system warned me though, if my overall score drops too low, the platform will block my orders entirely. The plan was simple. I would be polite to normal people but target the weird and rude passengers for those sweet rewards. Right on cue, I got an order heading straight to the Peninsula Hotel. It was the perfect coincidence for my trip. When I picked up the passenger, she didn't even greet me. She just climbed in and complained that I was a man. Normally, a passenger like this would ruin my day, but now her attitude was like music to my ears. She was stunning, tall, and wearing a bold red dress, but her personality was absolutely toxic. I loved every second of it. I tried to provoke her, asking if she had some deep-seated trauma with men. She told me to just drive. Then she accused me of peeping at her through the rearview mirror. In reality, I was just checking the heavy traffic. She didn't believe me and then started complaining about my manual transmission car. She hated the look of the gear shift. I had enough. I told her if she hated my car so much, she could get out. I am not a garbage collector. She was furious, threatening to leave the worst review of my life. I was practically cheering inside at the thought. Suddenly my phone rang. It was my ex, Zhao Feifei, calling from a random number just to scream insults at me. She dumped me after 6 years of love just to climb the social ladder with some rich second-generation guy. I reminded her that I still had those photos and videos of her from when we played poker together. The mood shifted instantly. She went from screaming to begging, terrified that I would send the evidence to her new boyfriend. I told her that if she wanted those files deleted, she would have to apologize and treat me with respect. When she threatened to call the police, I just laughed. I mentioned how easily a broken computer could leak everything. I had Zhao Feifei right where I wanted her. With those compromising photos on the computer, she had no choice but to obey. I made her call me dad in that flirty tone she once used. It felt good to finally flip the script on her. I told her to meet me at the Peninsula Hotel, but my passenger wasn't happy. She started calling me a scumbag and a pervert. I was already on edge, so I decided to give her a taste of my current mood. I told her life was hopeless. As I sped up and drifted through traffic, her attitude changed instantly. Suddenly, I wasn't a scumbag. I was a victim of heartbreak. Terrified for her life, she begged for mercy and even offered to be my girlfriend just to make me slow down. I decided to have a little more fun. I told her that if she called me dad, I would let her get out safely. She finally gave in and called me dad just to survive the trip. I dropped her off right at the Peninsula Hotel. She was furious and left me a brutal review, threatening to call the police for dangerous driving and harassment. But that negative review triggered the system. As a reward, I was granted ownership of the Haishan Financial Building. This was perfect. That building is exactly where my company's office is located. Now, I basically own the place where I worked. I headed into the hotel restaurant to collect my equity transfer papers and ran straight into that angry passenger again. She tried to scream at me, but the staff treated me with total respect, leaving her blushing in complete embarrassment. While waiting for my meal, I noticed she was there for a blind date. She isn't as high and mighty as she acts. Then, the main event arrived. Zhao Feifei walked in, clinging to an old rich man who looked like he could be her father. She spotted me immediately. Alongside her friend Chen Xinyi, the stage was set for a very interesting confrontation. I didn't hold back when Chen Xinyi started screaming at me, accusing me of deliberately sabotaging her plans. I called her out for what she really is, a gold digger who drags her friends into the mud. She has spent years chasing rich old men for designer bags, and I am tired of her poisoning Zhao Feifei. Just then, Zhao Feifei arrived with her new flame, a wealthy older man she refers to as Brother Li. I didn't let them off easy, calling myself the ex-husband to put them on the spot immediately. I openly questioned if Feifei had simply found a replacement for the daddy figure she always seemed to crave. Feifei immediately flipped the script, crying and painting me as a delusional stalker to win Brother Li's sympathy. It was disgusting to see how she had transformed from a pure girl into such a calculating manipulator. Brother Li played the hero, promising her Gucci bags and Chanel perfume just to stop her fake tears. Xinyi laughed in my face, mocking me for being a poor loser who could never provide such luxury. Brother Li looked down on me, telling me that poor people should simply know their place in the world. He bragged about being a vegetable supplier for the Peninsula Hotel, thinking that gave him power in this building. He had no idea that as the second shareholder of this hotel group, I hold his entire business in my hand. The waiter served the lavish birthday meal I had ordered, which briefly made Feifei feel a flicker of regret, but she quickly masked it with disgust, telling me that my romantic efforts were pathetic and repulsive. When Brother Li asked about my income, I told him I am just a ride-hailing driver making a few hundred daily. He laughed, calling me a fool for spending half a month's wages on one meal just to pretend to be cool. I shot back, asking if he felt pitiful for bringing a young girl here just to inflate his own ego. Enraged, Brother Lee decided to show me his true strength by calling the manager to have me thrown out. Fei Fei tried to play the victim again, pretending to beg me to leave so the crowd would pity her. The other diners joined in, judging me as a pathetic ex who could not let go of a girl who moved on. Even after I explained the betrayal, they defended her, blaming me for not being rich enough to keep her. I warned them to mind their own business or they would be leaving the hotel along with Brother Lee. Their arrogance was astounding, practically begging me to prove that I actually had the power to kick them out. I used to think novel villains were written to be stupid, but some people really are this delusional in real life. I could see Wang Jai watching me from table 10, probably thinking I was just some crazy driver who had finally lost it. She had a terrible experience in my car, and now she was venting to her blind date about how low my quality was. Her date, a rich kid named Zhang Long, saw an opportunity to play the hero and impress her by taking me down. He marched over, demanding I apologize and call her aunt, threatening to ban me from the Peninsula Hotel forever. He bragged that his father owned Tianmu Investment and was currently negotiating a huge capital injection into the hotel group. I just chuckled. He didn't realize that I hold 28% of the shares and am the second largest shareholder. Without my approval, his father's investment is dead in the water. He was basically begging for my favor without even knowing it. Just then, manager Cheng Dawu arrived. He greeted the others, but his eyes lit up the moment he saw me. When Zhang Long and Li Cheng demanded I be kicked out, the manager's expression shifted from a smile to cold indifference. He told them plainly that they were the ones who had to leave, and that our cooperative relationship was officially over. The shock on their faces was glorious. The manager then formally introduced me as the new second largest shareholder of the group. He explained that headquarters had already alerted all managers to treat me with the utmost respect and care. Zhang Long looked like he had seen a ghost, realizing he had just sabotaged his family's massive business deal in one breath. Even Wang Jai's perspective shifted instantly. Suddenly, my arrogance seemed charming because I was actually rich and powerful. I told manager Cheng that since they had laughed at me, I didn't want to see any of them in my hotel. The manager didn't hesitate, ordering security to remove them within 5 minutes, even offering to cover their meals just to get them out. The most satisfying part was watching my ex, Zhao Feifei. She looked absolutely devastated, realizing the mistake she had made. She had abandoned me for a man she thought was wealthy, only to find out I was the one with real power. The surrounding diners, who were just mocking me moments ago, suddenly turned on her, calling her a greedy scumbag for her choices. As she collapsed in despair, I just sat back and enjoyed the view. This was only the beginning of my journey. It is funny how quickly dignity vanishes when money is on the line. Zhao Feifei was suddenly at my feet. She begged for my forgiveness, promising to cut ties with others and give me a family if I just forgave her. But birds of a feather flocked together. Her friend Chen immediately turned on her to save her own skin. Xinyi claimed she only introduced Feifei to rich men because Feifei was obsessed with luxury bags and mansions. Watching them tear each other apart was a satisfying display of betrayal. They were simply two snakes fighting for survival. Then there was Li Cheng. He went from arrogant to humble in a heartbeat, trying to play off the affair. He claimed it was just a blind date and begged for mercy, fearing the influence I held over his business. I wasn't in the mood for excuses. I looked at manager Cheng and told him to clear the environment. The security guards dragged them out, and I made sure Li Cheng was stripped of his supplier contract immediately. Once the noise settled, I turned my attention to Zhang Long, the son of the boss at Tianmu Investment. Manager Cheng whispered that our group was discussing a capital injection from Zhang Long's family, sounding quite worried. I just smiled. I reminded him that I hold 28% of the shares in the Peninsula Group. My vote is the deciding factor. If I say no, Tianmu Investment will not get a single cent. Zhang Long tried to threaten me, but his arrogance was useless against the actual ownership of the company. I had him escorted out, his membership canceled, and his funds returned. He left with nothing but rage. But I wanted to leave him with one final blow. I looked at Wang Jai, his blind date. To truly settle the score, I invited her to stay and finish the meal with me instead. I framed it as an apology for our earlier encounter, giving her a polite reason to accept my invitation. Zhang Long was livid, but Jai could see that I was far more handsome and powerful than he was. She accepted my offer with a smile, leaving Zhang Long to walk away having lost both his pride and his date. As we toasted with red wine, I could feel the stunned gaze of every other diner in the room. It felt good to remind everyone that in this city, true power is the only thing that matters. I didn't have much interest in Wang Jai's identity, but she seemed very curious about me and kept asking questions. I told her that my parents passed away years ago and that I was currently working as a ride-hailing driver. As we talked more, I began to learn about her life. She is from Suzhou and works in a fashion store. She earns $15,000 a month but sends $5,000 home to help her parents with their family pressures. The strange part was her rent. She spends $7,000 a month just to live near the Pearl Tower. She loves her balcony view, which means she only has $3,000 left for everything else in her life. She is what you would call exquisite and poor, maintaining a high-end lifestyle that her income cannot actually support. Still, she is far better than Zhao Feifei. At least Wang Jiayi works hard for the life she wants. We discussed her dream of settling in Haicheng through marriage. She admitted that life had smoothed away her early ambitions. I told her that relying on a man is not shameful, but pretending to be independent while doing so is hypocritical. As the wine flowed, she explained why she was so prejudiced against me when she first entered my car. She had a terrible blind date earlier that night where the man tried to force a kiss in a theater. Between that experience and hearing my phone call with Zhao Feifei, she assumed all men were essentially the same. I joked that she probably just didn't like the guy, but she insisted a first meeting kiss was unthinkable. I argued that chemistry is about the atmosphere and feeling, not about how many times two people have met. To prove my point, I stepped forward, gently pinched her chin, and gave her a kiss that left her frozen. I told her to charge the wine to my room and then headed up to room 1208 to rest. Left alone, Wang Jiayi was conflicted, wondering why she hadn't resisted and if she should follow me upstairs. I was feeling dizzy from the wine and fell straight onto my bed, ready to sleep for the night. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. I opened it and a figure rushed in, hugging me and kissing me passionately. I woke up at 8:30 in a haze, trying to piece together the events of the previous night. A flash of memory returned, a red dress, flaming lips, and a slender figure. It was definitely Wang Jiayi. Then I noticed a stack of red notes on the bedside table. My eyes widened when I saw the bedsheet. I counted 30 notes, 3,000 yuan. She had given me her entire monthly pocket money as a gift. There was a note too. She called it a service fee and told me to recharge my batteries for her next visit. I couldn't help but laugh. This woman was certainly interesting, and I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. After getting dressed, I headed straight for the Haisheng Financial Building with a very specific purpose in mind. When I arrived at the management office, the manager, Chen, practically jumped out of his seat to greet me. He was incredibly polite, treating me with a level of respect I had never experienced in my entire life. The other employees looked stunned. They likely didn't expect the new $20 billion owner to be someone as young as me. Manager Chen handed me an envelope with all my ownership documents. I didn't even feel the need to check them. I told him I trusted him to keep managing the building, which made him beam with relief and happiness. Then, I asked for the rental details for units 1506 through 1508. I knew exactly who was there. The tenant was Zhang Jingyan. He was the arrogant boss who had cheated me out of my commissions. Better yet, his lease was expiring at the end of the month. It was the perfect time to settle the score. I ordered Manager Chen to accompany me upstairs, though I let him handle a quick phone call first. Walking into Jingyan Advertising Company, I felt a newfound confidence. I was no longer the pushover I used to be. Xiaoli at the front desk looked at me with pity, warning me that the boss only planned to pay my basic salary. I just smiled. I never take advantage of others, but I won't let others take advantage of me either. As I walked through the office, my former colleagues whispered, wondering if I was really brave enough to demand my money. Then there was Li Yuan, the manager who had stolen my hard work during my probation period just to hold me down. He tried to intimidate me as usual, but I didn't flinch. I looked him right in the eye and shut him down. My friend Chen Yu tried to play peacemaker, begging me to be reasonable and maybe even consider coming back. I thanked him, but I wasn't there to compromise. I was there to collect what was rightfully mine. Finally, Zhang Jingyan stepped out of his office with a cold look, asking me what I thought of his place of business. I chuckled, leaning back. I told him I was just here for my salary and asked if he was ready. I had given everything to my job at Jingyan Advertising, but I quickly learned that loyalty is a one-way street. A few months ago, the Hongxing Sports Group put out an advertising bid worth 50,000, and it was a massive opportunity. My boss, Zhang Jingyan, was desperate for the win. He promised a 20% commission to whoever landed the account. I worked tirelessly, and my plan was the one they chose. We signed the contract, and the money came in. But when payday arrived, I checked my salary slip and felt a surge of anger. My commission was only 2.5%. I confronted Zhang Jingyan immediately. He had the audacity to deny his own promise, leaving me with no choice but to resign. He knew I was the most talented person in the company, so he tried to manipulate me into staying. He offered to pay the remaining commission over 10 months, but only if I closed at least one order every month. I laughed in his face. He was trying to turn a guaranteed payment into a conditional leash to keep me working. When I asked my colleagues for support, the betrayal stung. Fearful for their jobs, they all claimed they heard nothing. Some even started flattering the boss, calling me greedy and telling me to be grateful for having a job at all. The Yuan, the boss's favorite, was the worst of them. She mocked me, telling me I wasn't qualified to resist. Zhang Jingyan grew smug, thinking he had me trapped. He told me he was the boss and could change the rules anytime. I just smiled and pulled out my phone. I told him I had recorded our entire conversation for the Labor Arbitration Bureau. Panic flashed in his eyes. He screamed for the door to be locked so I couldn't leave the office. In a fit of rage, he smashed a computer monitor and tried to frame me for the damage to deduct my salary. He threatened to beat me and destroy my phone, claiming that without evidence his word would be the only one that mattered. I told him about cloud backups, which only made him more furious. He thought he had total control over my life. Suddenly, a loud knock sounded at the door. It was Chen Jichao, the manager of the building's management office. Zhang Jingyan rushed out to greet him, hoping to secure the lease renewal for his office space. But Manager Chen wasn't interested in the lease. He asked where I was and why the door was locked. When Zhang Jingyan asked why he was looking for me, the manager's response froze the boss in his tracks. He told him plainly that I was the new owner of the entire building. The tables had just completely turned. I stood there as the crowd closed in, but everything changed the moment Manager Chen Zichao burst through the doors. Instead of reprimanding me, he pushed everyone aside and bowed, addressing me with a level of respect that stunned everyone. He announced the truth to the entire room. I was now the official owner of the Haisheng Financial Building. I had just spent $20 billion to buy the place, and now I held the fate of every tenant in my hands. The shock on their faces was incredible. They could not understand why someone so rich would have worked as an employee. I let them believe I was a rich heir who had come here to experience life as part of a family training task. Zhang Jingyan, who had treated me like trash, suddenly shifted gears, trying to flatter me and offer a quick settlement. He thought he could just pay me double my salary and make the entire conflict disappear with a fake smile. But I had a different plan. Manager Chen mentioned a specific clause regarding the legal and ethical operation of tenants. If a tenant operated illegally, the building could terminate their lease and claim 3 times the rent in liquidated damages. This was the perfect trap. I simply played the recording of Zhang Jingyan's illegal commission promises for everyone to hear. The recording left him speechless. His own words had just signed his professional death warrant and put his company at risk. Zhang begged me to delete the audio in exchange for money, but I refused his desperate and pathetic offer. I told Manager Chen to handle the matter strictly. I wanted justice, not a bribe from a man like him. As I turned to leave, Zhang Jingyan's mask finally slipped, and he tried to intimidate me one last time. When my indifference broke him, he turned to his own employees with a desperate and dangerous proposal. He offered them salary raises and cash rewards if they could snatch my phone and destroy the recording forever. Zhang Jingyan was desperate. He tried to bribe my former colleagues to steal my phone, offering cash and raises. He started small, but soon jumped to 10,000 yuan and double salaries to lure someone to betray me. But no one moved. I had just spent 20 billion on the Haisheng Financial Building. I was far too rich to offend. Besides, Zhang is a known liar. He doesn't even pay the commissions he owes, so his promises meant nothing. He even had his accountant put cash on the table to tempt them. 10,000 yuan is a lot for some. However, rationality won. They knew that making money is pointless if you don't have a life left to spend it. Manager Chen Jichao arrived shortly after with a squad of security guards. The mood in the office shifted instantly. With guards everywhere, the employees became completely honest. No one dared to even think about that bribe anymore. I let Manager Chen handle the chaos. I just wanted to see Zhang squirm while I held my phone. Just as I was about to leave, the police arrived. Now, it was time to settle this matter once and for all. I played the recording for the officers. It clearly proved Zhang's illegal treatment of his staff and wage theft. The police reprimanded him severely. He was forced to pay my commission and salary on the spot to avoid immediate arrest. But returning stolen money isn't enough. A thief shouldn't just give back what he took, he must pay a price. I turned to my former colleagues and told them to speak up while the police were present to witness everything. The floodgates opened. One by one, they reported his illegal salary deductions and forced, unpaid overtime. Then the real damage surfaced. They brought up the yin-yang contracts and his systematic tax evasion. The most serious charge was falsely issuing VAT invoices. That kind of crime can lead to life in prison. Zhang's face turned ashen. He realized a simple dispute over a commission had spiraled into the collapse of his life. Even Li Yuan, his closest associate, betrayed him. He revealed Zhang's secret mistresses and hidden asset transfers. Zhang was livid, screaming at Li Yuan for the betrayal, but the evidence was already overwhelming. The police took Zhang away in handcuffs. His company was sealed and every employee was forced to leave. As he was dragged away, Zhang roared that I had ruined him. I just looked at him with disdain. I told him the truth. I didn't ruin him. His own greed and injustice did. Justice simply caught up. With Zhang Jingyan finally taken away by the police, the office fell into a state of complete panic. My former colleagues were terrified, worrying about their mortgages and car loans now that they had lost their jobs. Looking at them, I realized these people were the perfect employees. They were skilled, capable, and incredibly patient. They had endured Zhang's abuse for so long that they were practically experts at tolerating unfair treatment. I knew I couldn't just rely on ride-hailing for my wealth, so I decided it was time to start my own business. Since my background was in advertising planning, opening an agency felt like the safest and most logical move. I looked at the group and told them I was starting my own company right here and asked who wanted to join. The reaction was instant. Everyone was excited, raising their hands and begging to work for me. Then there was Li Yuan, the manager who had spent his entire career being a loyal lapdog to Zhang. He tried to play both sides, offering to be a witness against Zhang just to secure a spot in my new company. I shut him down immediately. A man who betrays his boss so easily would eventually betray me too. The other employees joined in, venting all their stored-up anger until Li Yuan finally fled in shame. With the toxic weight gone, I explained the plan. The current lease expires in a week and the company will fail. I intend to buy the company from Zhang's family at a bargain, change the name, and restart operations. I surprised everyone by appointing Xu Xiaoli, the receptionist, as the new manager and CEO of the company. She was shaking with excitement, promising to work her hardest despite her lack of managerial experience. After settling things with the building security, I headed back to my car to focus on my ride-hailing goals. Just as I was thinking about lunch, an order popped up only 500 meters away from me. When I arrived, I saw a couple locked in a very intimate embrace, completely oblivious to my arrival. Once they separated, I recognized the woman immediately. It was Wang Lixin, a former classmate from my university days. She climbed into the car with her boyfriend, Zhang Jiankun, acting surprised and excited to see me. She introduced me as the star student of the economics school, the man who swept up every single scholarship. Her words were polite, but I could sense the hidden contempt she felt seeing a genius reduced to driving a car. She eventually asked about my childhood sweetheart, the girl I had spent years being devoted to. I simply told her that we had broken up, leaving her looking surprised and slightly pitying my current situation. Wang Lixin asked me if I regretted rejecting her back in college. It was a loaded question, and I knew it. Back then, she was bold and beautiful, but I was completely loyal to my girlfriend Zhao Feifei. I couldn't see anyone else. Lixin had even used a drone to confess her love in front of the whole school. It was a scene I'll never forget. I had remained unmoved, eventually scolding her for her persistence. Since then, we had barely spoken a word to each other. Looking back now, after Zhao Feifei betrayed 6 years of my youth for money, I do feel some regret, but not for Lixin. I told her that we all choose our own paths in life. Once the choice is made, there is no room for regret. Lixin didn't want a philosophical answer. She wanted to hear that I missed out on her. Instead, she turned to her boyfriend. She told Zhang Jiankun that I had humiliated her in public years ago, calling her names and shaming her in front of the class. I was a shy student back then. I would never have used such ugly language, but it was my word against hers. Jiankun immediately took her side, lecturing me on my behavior. Then, he shifted the conversation to my current career. He mocked me for being a top graduate from a prestigious university who now spends his days as an online car-hailing driver. Lixin joined in, calling me a waste of educational resources. She pretended to be helpful, suggesting I work for them. She mentioned Jiankun is a manager at Heian Advertising and offered me a lowly clerk position, basically serving tea and printing papers. I recognized the company. I was the one who recently beat Heian Advertising for a massive order from the Hongxing Group. The irony was delicious. A defeated general was trying to look down on me from a position of perceived power. I politely declined their offer. I don't need to be a clerk, and I'm perfectly happy earning an honest living on my own. Lixin dropped the act. She told me my job was an embarrassment to our alumni and asked how little I actually earn. I told her, there is no shame in honest work. Whether you graduate from a top school or not, integrity is what matters. She hit a nerve, mocking my failed 6-year relationship and claiming she escaped the catastrophe by not ending up with me. I rolled down the window to catch my breath. The air in the car felt suffocating, filled with their arrogance and spite. Even then, she complained about the draft. I have reached my limit. I really can't help it anymore. The platform doesn't force drivers to keep the air conditioning on, and for someone like Wang Lixin, I decided she didn't deserve it. She was absolutely furious, complaining that I was trying to heat them to death in the middle of a scorching summer day. I told her coldly that if she wanted the AC, she could try saying something nice for a change. That didn't sit well with her boyfriend Zhang Jiangkun. He started shouting and threatening me, calling me an idiot. I didn't back down. I actually dared him to hit me, knowing he wouldn't risk a car accident with his girlfriend inside. Wang Lixin tried to blackmail me, claiming she would leave a negative review and file a complaint if I didn't comply. I just chuckled. I told her that bad reviews were her right and that I simply didn't care about her threats. Driven by rage, Zhang demanded that I pull over immediately. I made sure my audio and video recordings were running first. I stopped the car and let them out, then locked the windows and drove off, leaving them to enjoy the summer sun. The catch was that we were in the middle of the Yellow River Cross River Bridge, nearly a kilometer from either end. At noon in 36-degree heat, they were stranded on a concrete wasteland with no way to hail another car. While they suffered, they spent their time crafting a spiteful negative review, revising it 3 times to make me look terrible. As soon as the review hit the platform, my system notified me. I had earned a reward for the negative feedback. The reward was staggering: 200 million in cash deposited directly into my bank account through secure channels. It is a massive amount of money, though it reminds me of the wealth my family had before the accident happened. I uploaded the evidence of their behavior to customer service, not because I cared about the rating, but for the record. Hungry after a long morning, I found a small restaurant and enjoyed a meal, finally moving past my years of frugality. While I ate, my phone started blowing up with calls from Wang Lixin and Zhang. I blocked them both immediately. But Wang Lixin wasn't done. She took her grievances to our old class QQ group, playing the role of the victim. She claimed she was just trying to be a supportive classmate before I maliciously abandoned her on a bridge in the heat. The group exploded with gossip, with my former classmates speculating about my love life and judging me for my actions. She painted me as the villain to the whole class, but I just sat back and watched the drama unfold. My old classmates just found out I am driving a car-hailing service, and the group chat has absolutely exploded. Some were shocked, while others, like Xia Yuru, claimed that someone with my degree should never be doing this. Thankfully, Xu Xiaowan tried to defend me, suggesting that I was simply in a transition period and had a plan. Meanwhile, Wang Lixin was still stranded on the bridge, complaining about the heat while everyone ignored her plight. That is when Wu Tao stepped in. He has always been a flatterer, looking for any chance to look like a hero. He offered to pick her up, likely hoping to use the opportunity to win her heart or get closer to her. I decided to rain on his parade by asking if he really wanted to pick up Wang Lixin and her boyfriend. The mood shifted instantly. As soon as Wu Tao realized she was not single, he made a quick excuse and vanished. As the laughter died down, the focus shifted back to my life. I took a moment to buy a drink and replied, I told them the truth. I had quit my job and gone through a breakup, and I needed time to clear my head. I explained that there is no shame in honest work and told them they could ignore me if they felt embarrassed. But Wang Lixin would not let it go. She started lying, claiming I had been harassing her during the ride. I did not bother arguing. I simply uploaded the audio recording of our encounter to the group chat for everyone. The recording revealed everything: her arrogance, her boyfriend's threats, and how I only fought back after being pushed too far. The tide turned instantly. Even the people who were judging me started calling her out for being a vicious bully. Wang Lixin was humiliated. She tried to ruin my reputation, but she only ended up destroying her own in the process. Eventually, she and her boyfriend managed to catch a taxi and finally escaped from that burning Cross River Bridge. But they were far from finished. Zhang Jiangkun was furious and vowed to make me pay for the embarrassment. He came up with a scheme, forcing Wang Lixin to send a fake apology and invite local classmates to a dinner. It is a trap. He is using a class reunion as a cover to lure me into a place where he can ambush me. I saw the group chat blowing up. It looked like a class reunion was being organized, but I knew better. Zhang Jiangkun was using Wang Lixin's account to set this up. To me, this reunion looked like a total trap. I've learned that these gatherings are usually a waste of time, especially once everyone starts their own separate lives. Still, the pressure was on. Wang Lixin insisted I attend so she could apologize to me in person. Other classmates joined in, even Xia Yuro, who jokingly threatened to tie me up if I didn't show. Then I got a private message from Xu Xiaowan. She was more subtle, just asking if I would be there. I didn't want to commit to anything, so I told her it depended on whether I had work that day. I spent the next few hours driving, earning 5-star reviews from normal customers. It was a productive afternoon. After a quick nap, I woke up at 10. Since it was raining, I figured it was the perfect time to work. Rain means more orders. I headed to a KTV to pick up a passenger, but the night quickly took a turn. The passenger, a woman named Ms. Zhang, demanded that I carry her to the car to protect her new shoes. I refused, obviously. She called me unprofessional, acting as if being a driver meant I was her personal servant. Once she got in, she threw her soaking wet umbrella right on the seat, ignoring the mess she made. I tried to politely ask her not to do that, but she just threatened to file a complaint against me. When we reached her destination, the absurdity peaked. She demanded that I drive the car upstairs to avoid a puddle. I told her I was a driver, not an elevator. She flew into a rage, screaming that I was failing her. She threatened to report me for my attitude, and I finally snapped. I told her to go right ahead. Neither of us would back down, so we both pulled out our phones and called the police to settle it. I had finally had enough. I called the police and told them I had encountered a complete fool at the gates of Jing'an home. But as soon as the officers arrived, my passenger started screaming, claiming I was a hooligan trying to kidnap and rape her. I just shrugged helplessly. I knew exactly how this was going to go, so I handed over my ID for them to check. To clear my name, I pulled up the car's surveillance footage. The video revealed the absolute absurdity of the entire situation. There she was on screen, demanding that I literally drive the car up the stairs because she did not want her sneakers dirty. She actually believed a car was an elevator. The police looked at me with genuine sympathy, realizing the nightmare I was enduring. Even with the police there, she would not budge. She kept ranting about her limited edition sneakers and calling me a criminal. The officers warned her 3 times to get out, but she just kept shouting. Finally, they had to use pepper spray on her. As they hauled her away for provoking trouble, I felt a massive weight lift off my shoulders and quickly drove away. I got back to work, picking up several passengers in the heavy rain, but my peace did not last very long. A notification popped up on my phone. That woman had filed a formal complaint and left me a scathing bad review. I quickly uploaded the video evidence to appeal, but then my system chimed in with a surprising notification. It congratulated me on receiving a bad review and rewarded me with 50 grams of Mother Tree Dahongpao tea. At first, I thought it was a small gift, but a quick internet search left me absolutely shocked. This tea is more precious than gold, selling for thousands of yuan per gram. I had just hit a literal gold mine. As I brewed a cup to enjoy the fragrance, another notification arrived. That same passenger had left me another hateful review. I could not believe how delusional she was, but the system saw it as an opportunity, triggering a critical strike reward. Just like that, the system granted me a luxury villa in Binjiang No. 1. Now, I just have to wait for the keys. I was in a fantastic mood. After getting that high-end tea in a luxury villa, life finally felt amazing. I am talking about a Binjiang villa, the peak of Haicheng luxury, complete with its own pool and garden. The system gave me the crown jewel of the area, worth nearly 5 million. I finally had a real home. I sat in my car sipping my tea and enjoying the quiet. It is funny how expensive tea actually tastes better. Just as I was about to head home, the passenger door flew open and a beautiful woman with tattoos jumped in. Now, I am not judging, but those tattoos gave off a strong troublemaker vibe. I did not want any part of it. She threw a stack of cash on the seat and demanded I drive. But I am not a street taxi. I told her I was off work and she needed to use the app. I did not need her money anymore. She grew angry, but before we could argue more, a man in baggy pants started knocking on my window. I opened the window slightly. He claimed the girl was his girlfriend, but she screamed that he was a stranger. Then the truth came out. Her father owed this guy millions and had basically traded her to pay the debt. He wanted to take her to a hotel. I tried to stay neutral since I am just a driver, not a bodyguard. I told her to call the police. She begged me to save her, fearing the consequences for her family's debt. I almost let her go, thinking it was a family mess I should avoid. But then the guy crossed a line. He suggested we just settle things right here in the car, even offering me a turn. It was absolutely revolting. That was enough for me. I did not care about the drama, but I still have some basic human decency. I slammed the locks on all the doors. The guy went ballistic, screaming that I had just made a huge mistake. He claimed to be Zhang Hengji, the son of the Yao group, and threatened to hunt me down across the city. I gripped the steering wheel tight, feeling the heat of the chase. I knew Zhang Hengji's family was powerful, but I wasn't intimidated. As a shareholder in the Peninsula Hotel Group, I had my own standing. I wasn't about to let a local real estate son bully me. I slammed the wheel to the side, throwing his car off my bumper and disappearing into the shadows of the city streets. Beside me, Wang Qiani was practically vibrating with excitement. She kicked off her heels and put her feet right on my dashboard. She called me manly for taking a risk, but I knew the truth. I was just a driver who had poked a very dangerous hornet's nest. She tried to bribe me with a few benefits, but I noticed the tattoos on her legs. She was definitely no innocent girl. When she asked to go to her house, I told her flat out I had no interest in girls with her kind of reputation. But the roar of a Lamborghini interrupted us. Zhang Hongji had caught up, pulling his flashy car right alongside mine at a red light. He slammed on his window and screamed threats, his face twisted in rage. He wanted me to stop and hand her over immediately. I waited for the light to turn green, then flicked my tail out. I watched his car spin away as I accelerated into the night. A sickening crunch of metal echoed behind us. He had slammed into the green belt, and Wang Qiani started laughing like she had won. She finally admitted the truth. Her family owed a massive debt they could not pay, and she was desperate to escape his family's reach. She made a bold offer, promising me her first time if I could just get her home safely tonight without getting caught by the others. I couldn't help but smirk at her jokes about her Guangdong tattoo. I knew exactly what kind of game she played in that world. When we finally reached a bus stop, she tried to tempt me again, claiming she was a high-quality girl who deserved my help. I wasn't falling for it. I shoved the money back into a bag and told her to find her own way home right now. I watched her stomp away in anger. I wasn't going to be some rich kid's pawn, especially not for a girl who wasn't worth it. I had just returned home when a strange phone call interrupted my evening. It was the secretary from the Peninsula Hotel Group. They informed me that I was now the second largest shareholder and required my presence at a board meeting the next afternoon. The next morning, a courier arrived with a package. Inside were the deed and keys to Binjiang Villa No. 1. I finally owned the place. My current apartment was 20 years old and cramped, so I decided it was time to sell. I hired a cleaning crew and a moving company to help me transition. I had very few belongings of my own. However, I kept everything my parents left behind. Their photos and clothes are the only memories I have, and they are priceless. Once I was settled into the villa, I headed to the Peninsula Hotel Group. I arrived 5 minutes past 3 o'clock. I apologized for the delay, but as the second shareholder, the others were quick to welcome me with friendly smiles. I focused on two key people, the chairman, Li Wanhong, and Zhang Wu, the CEO of Tianmu Investment. The main goal of the meeting was a capital injection from Tianmu Investment, but there was a personal complication. Li Wanhong tried to play peacemaker, urging me to reconcile with Zhang Wu's son, Zhang Long, for the sake of the deal. Zhang Wu offered a half-hearted apology, dismissing his son's behavior as mere youthful ignorance. I wasn't having it. I told him plainly that I refused to be treated like some cowardly turtle who just endures bullying. The other shareholders panicked. They knew my 28% equity was the deciding factor for the entire investment. When Zhang Wu refused to show true sincerity, I asked if there was anything else to discuss. When Li said no, I stood up. I told him I didn't agree to the investment and walked out. I left the room in a state of absolute shock. Zhang Wu was furious at my arrogance, while Li Wanhong hoped she could eventually persuade me to change my mind. Later, I visited a real estate agency to sell my old home, but as I parked, a group of men surrounded me. It was Zhang Hongji. He looked arrogant as ever, clearly seeking revenge for our previous encounter. He didn't want a fair fight. Instead, he ordered his men to begin smashing my Buick to pieces right in front of me. He laughed, knowing I used that car for ride-hailing. He wanted to destroy my only way of making a living. Then he did something truly bold. He led me to his expensive GTR and dared me to smash it too. He mocked me, knowing that while he could easily replace a car, the cost would ruin me. He thought he had won. I looked at my smashed Buick. My first instinct was to crush Zhang Hongji's GTR in return, but I had to be smart. Destroying a car that expensive would likely land me in prison. I could not let him win by making me a criminal. Just then, a Porsche and a Lamborghini pulled up. It was Wang Qiani and Zhang Long. Talk about a small world. Wang Qiani was furious with Zhang Hongji for smashing my car, but Zhang was far too arrogant to care about her feelings. It turns out Wang's family owes Zhang's family a massive debt, and she was forced to accompany him tonight to settle it. Then there was Zhang Long. His father was currently desperate for my approval to invest in the Peninsula Hotel Group. I saw a perfect opportunity. I pulled Zhang Long aside and asked about his family wealth and their connection to Zhang Hongji. I proposed a trade. If his family lent Wang Qiani the money to free her from Zhang, I would allow the investment. Zhang Long was confused why I would not just pay it myself. He started imagining I was a secret heir in training. He thought I was some rich kid doing a trial period before inheriting a fortune. I just smiled and let him believe it. While he made the phone call, I called the police. Zhang Hongji laughed, but his thugs were not as confident as he was. I reminded them that destroying property worth over 5,000 yuan is a crime. The thugs started panicking immediately. They begged Zhang Hongji to settle the matter. The arrogance in the air shifted to a pure fear of prison time. Zhang Long returned with good news. His father agreed to the loan at a commercial rate plus 1% interest. I told Wang Jiani to have her father meet Tianmu Investment tomorrow morning to finalize the loan and reclaim her freedom. I handed her 800 yuan, a little joke about the price of her night. She did not care about the money. She threw her arms around me and kissed me passionately. It seems my wisdom had paid off in more ways than one. To be honest, Wang Jiani is a bit too self-indulgent for my taste, but I only played along to annoy Zhang Hongji. I didn't actually have any interest in her. If I had physical needs, I could easily afford someone I actually liked. Zhang Hongji was baffled, demanding to know why Zhang Long's family would bother lending money to Wang Jiani's struggling family. Zhang Long laughed and explained the real reason. His family desperately wanted to invest in the Peninsula Hotel. As the second shareholder of the Peninsula Hotel, I held the power to grant or deny that capital injection. The moment Zhang Hongji and Wang Jiani realized my status, their expressions shifted from arrogance to absolute shock. They couldn't wrap their heads around why someone so wealthy would spend their days driving for a car-hailing service. Zhang Hongji quickly assumed I was the son of some secret, powerful family out in the world for a training task. His lackeys panicked immediately, terrified that offending a hidden tycoon would make their families vanish from the world overnight. Suddenly, the people who were so eager to smash my car were scrambling to pool their money to pay me back. Of course, their combined savings weren't even close to the value of a Buick LaCrosse, making the situation quite pathetic. Zhang Hongji tried to act aggrieved, complaining that I should have told him about my status before the misunderstanding started. I just mocked him, asking if he really thought everyone felt the need to broadcast their family name like he does. Wang Jiani shifted gears instantly, wrapping her arms around my neck and calling me a son of a secret family. I tried to tell them they were overthinking it, but no one believed me. They were convinced of my hidden background. Zhang Hongji, still stubborn, dared me to prove my identity, threatening to teach me a lesson if I was lying. His followers, however, had completely given up on him, begging for mercy and trying to distance themselves from his actions. Zhang Hongji lost it, beating his own lackeys for being cowards while they argued that he had a safety net. Just as the chaos peaked, the police arrived. The lackeys didn't hesitate to point the finger at Zhang Hongji as the mastermind. Zhang Hongji tried his usual trick, announcing his father's position as chairman of the Yao group to intimidate the officers. He claimed I stole his girlfriend, but Wang Jiani quickly stepped in, hugging me tightly and denying any relation to him. To prove our bond, she asked if I knew what tattoo she had on her back, and I guessed Guangong. She actually did it. She got a massive tattoo of the God of War just because I once mentioned it. The police were amused by her boldness, but they weren't impressed by Zhang Hongji's family connections. The officer warned him that intentional property damage over 5,000 yuan is a criminal offense regardless of his father. Realizing he might actually face a court sentence, Zhang Hongji panicked and offered me 100,000 to settle privately. I just smiled. There was no way I was accepting a private settlement. I wanted the court to decide his fate. Zhang Hongji thought a few $1,000 would make me go away, but he was dead wrong. I told him clearly that I didn't want his money. I wanted something far more permanent, a criminal record. He laughed, thinking his family's wealth made him untouchable, but fortunes change and a legal record lasts forever. I didn't care if it was just probation. I wanted that stain on his life to haunt him one day. He tried to intimidate me and brought up Wang Jiani, but I just watched as the police took him in. At the station, the deputy director tried to push for mediation, warning me that court cases can take years. I didn't budge. My goal wasn't a payout, it was making sure Zhang Hongji faced the legal consequences of his actions. Then came his father, Zhang Yawu. He was exactly like his son, with arrogance dripping from every single word. He pushed a blank check toward me, telling me to write any amount I wanted just to make this disappear. I laughed in his face. Asking for a huge sum now would only give them a reason to sue me for extortion. Zhang Yawu started throwing out numbers. 50,000, 1 million, then 200 million. He was desperate because of his company's listing. His tone shifted to threats, telling me to leave some room for retreat in my life so we could meet again. But I faced far worse things than him. When I was 15, I dealt with creditors after my parents passed away. This man's threats meant nothing to me. I signed the papers, officially refusing any settlement and choosing the legal route. As I walked out of the station, Wang Qiani rushed up to me, looking as bold and provocative as ever. She tried to tempt me with a very personal reward for helping her, but I quickly shut her down. She seemed stunned. Most men would jump at the chance, but I have no interest in her seductive games. She mentioned her family's debts and the risk of falling into Zhang Hongju's hands if their new investment failed. I told her not to worry. I've already ensured the investment in her family's Peninsula Group will go through. I left her standing there, confused and intrigued, as I caught a taxi and headed back home. I headed back to the agency to finalize the sale of my old place and get the photos and videos sorted. The agent was cautious, asking if I was selling because of enemies, but I just smiled and reassured him. I mentioned that I had already bought a house in Binjiang Via, which completely shocked the poor guy. He could not believe a ride-hailing driver could afford such a place, as villas there cost tens of millions. I did not stay to explain, as I had a more pressing problem. My Buick had been smashed into scrap metal. I needed a new car immediately to keep earning, but I wanted something safe without being too ostentatious. While I was weighing my options, Wang Lixin called to insist that I attend a party this Sunday. I had no interest in her games, so I told her to stop harassing me before I exposed her past. After hanging up, I noticed a notification on my app. Her boyfriend, Zhang Jiangkun, had left a nasty negative review. Suddenly, the system triggered a critical strike reward because of that review, granting me a limited edition Phaeton. This car is a masterpiece of low-key luxury, costing nearly 89 million but looking like a common Passat. I rushed to the underground garage, found the keys in my pocket, and finally claimed my new ride. It drove far better than my old Buick, and I loved the fact that most people would not recognize its value. Meanwhile, Wang Lixin was playing the victim in our group chat, blaming me for nearly canceling the weekend party. She is a classic green tea type, trying to make me look like the villain in front of our old classmates. I decided to play along, pretending I was too broke to miss a day of work, but agreed to go. Since her boyfriend basically gifted me a luxury car with his hate, I figured I might as well join the fun. After sorting out the registration, I drove toward Binjiang Via, where I saw the guard arguing with some visitors. When the guard saw me, he recognized me as the owner of Via number 1, and his expression changed instantly. However, he looked completely baffled that a man with my wealth would choose to drive such a plain car. I was just trying to get home quickly, but I found myself caught in the middle of a chaotic scene at the gate. A group of arrogant drivers in BMWs and Mercedes were screaming at the guards for being blocked from entering. The guards didn't care about their luxury cars. They let me glide right past them in my humble Volkswagen. The other drivers were furious, unable to believe a cheap car was getting priority over their expensive Jaguars. It quickly devolved into a massive brawl. By the time I reached my door, the police were hauling everyone away. Finally, I had some peace. I grabbed some noodles and a watermelon, enjoying the moonlight by my private lake. Little did I know, someone was watching me from Villa number 8. Her name was Shui Yi Neng. She was deeply intrigued by me. A young man owning the most prestigious villa in the community? It didn't add up. Her housekeeper, Li Langjin, noticed how I kept a low profile, switching from an old Buick to a Volkswagen. Sui decided it would be wise to make a good impression, so she sent a greeting gift over to me. Soon, Li Langjin arrived at my door carrying several incredibly expensive bottles of Mutai and Lafite wine. I was a bit wary at first. You can't be too careful when you're the new guy in a place like this. We exchanged polite words. She introduced her mistress and left the gifts before quickly heading back to her home. I felt a bit awkward taking such lavish gifts, but since we were neighbors, I decided to keep them. Back at Villa 8, Shui Yineng wondered who I really was. My quiet life just got a bit more interesting. It was past 10 o'clock and I had finished packing the kitchen, but I was far too restless to sleep. Instead of wasting time on my phone, I decided to head out and run a few car-hailing orders for 2 hours. I took my new Phaeton out, hoping to provide excellent service and secure some great reviews to start my journey. The system dispatched an order near a cinema, where I met a young couple who looked like college students. They were confused because my app listed a Buick, but I quickly explained that my other car was being repaired. The girl, Lin Xiaoyu, was anxious. She needed to reach her dormitory at the University of Finance and Economics by 10,030. I recognized the school immediately. I was an alumnus from the marketing department, and I knew the curfew was strict. Her boyfriend seemed worried, but he was actually hiding a selfish motive. He had delayed their departure on purpose. He wanted her to miss the deadline so they could spend the night together, thinking no driver could make it. I told him not to worry. Back in my day, I often raced against the clock to get my girlfriend home. Lin Xiaoyu was delighted to find a senior from her own school, and we quickly bonded over our shared alma mater. The navigation suggested the main road, but I knew better. I took several shortcuts to shave off precious minutes. The boyfriend was fuming in the back seat. My efficiency was completely ruining his plan to trap her outside. We reached the campus gate with only a few minutes left. I managed to get the guard to let us in. I drove fast through the empty campus, pulling up to the doors of Building A exactly as the clock hit 10,030. Thrilled and relieved, Lin Xiaoyu scanned my WeChat and rushed into the dormitory, completely forgetting her boyfriend in the car. She messaged me shortly after, asking me to take her boyfriend home and promising to cover the fare herself. As I drove him toward Fukang Court, a notification popped up. I had just received a negative review from the passenger. Suddenly, the system triggered a reward. For earning a bad review, I was granted the actual combat version of Bajiquan. Instantly, the knowledge of the powerful martial art flooded my mind, leaving me feeling capable and dangerous. I looked at the boy in the rearview mirror and asked him why he would give me a bad review after my help. I followed the passenger's directions to Fukang Court, a dim and old community that felt a bit unsettling. Once we arrived, I finally asked the boy, Zhao Zhongyu, why he had given me a bad review. His reason was absurd. He was furious because I drove too efficiently, ruining his plan to spend the night with his girlfriend. Suddenly, a group of thugs surrounded my car, demanding I get out. I stepped out to avoid scratching my new car. Zhao bragged about his martial arts skills, thinking he and his friends could easily overwhelm me 6 against 1. I played along, suggesting we move to a dark spot away from the surveillance cameras to settle this properly. Once we were in the shadows, I showed them what real skill looks like. It was over very quickly. I walked back to my car with a smile, leaving them groaning in pain in the darkness. But I was not finished. I drove back to make sure Zhao paid his fare and fixed that review. Terrified, he paid me every cent and changed the bad review to a positive one immediately. Later, Lin Xiaoyu messaged me. I told her the truth about her boyfriend's attempt to have me beaten up. I figured she deserved to know who she was dating, so I suggested she move on from him. Lin Xiaoyu was appalled. She called Zhao and their relationship crumbled right then and there over the phone. Out of spite, Zhao filed a formal complaint against me through the ride-hailing platform to get me in trouble. Just as I saw the notification, my system triggered a critical strike reward for being complained about. I now have the chance to upgrade my body to the absolute peak of human physical capability. Strength, vision, and reaction speed all perfected. I just need to find a place to lie down and begin. After that little drama with Zhao Zhongyu, I headed home in a great mood, ready to finally level up. I shoved myself in, turned on the AC, and gave the system the command to start strengthening my body. The system warned me it would take 49 minutes and might be uncomfortable, but I was more than ready. At first, my whole body felt like it was on fire and my bones ached with an intense pressure. But soon, that pain vanished, replaced by a wave of relaxation and a sudden piercing clarity in my mind. When it finished, the system told me I was now the strongest person on the surface, excluding weapons. It cautioned me to stay low profile though, because I didn't want to end up as a lab rat for research. Then I noticed a foul smell. Black impurities were oozing from my skin, staining my clothes in the process. After a long shower to scrub away the grime, I crashed and woke up early for a morning run. While jogging past Villa number 8, I ran into Ms. Xue, looking athletic and stunning in her workout gear. We exchanged a few polite words and I thanked her for the gift. She seemed impressed by my demeanor. Later, I realized I couldn't just take her expensive wine without giving something back. It would look stingy. I didn't want to give away my parents' heirlooms, so I decided to use the Mother Tree Dahong Pao tea. I packed 40 small bags of the tea and headed over to Villa number 8 to deliver them. Her assistant, Li Langjin, welcomed me in, though she looked confused when she saw the simple garment bag. Ms. Xue joined us, fresh from the shower and radiating a natural, noble elegance that was hard to ignore. I didn't want to linger, so I told them I had to leave for work as a rideshare driver. I could see the confusion on their faces. A rideshare driver owning Villa number 1 just doesn't add up. After I left, Xue Yinong noticed the tea didn't look like any normal Dahong Pao she had ever seen before. She decided to send a sample to an expert named Lao Hong to figure out exactly what I gave her. She now thinks I might be a rich heir playing a role to learn humility. She finds me very interesting. I honestly didn't expect to make a real profit from online car hailing, but I can't afford to be lazy right now. I need to rake in dozens of good reviews to offset that one bad mark on my profile, so I'm pushing through. My phone suddenly rang, and it was Zhang Yaowu. He was still trying to use his wealth to bury our problems. He wanted me to forgive his son in exchange for money, but I wasn't having any of it today. I told him straight to his face that money doesn't solve everything and he should spend it on his own son. I mocked his arrogance before hanging up on him. I could hear him screaming curses at me for being a lowly driver. As evening fell, Wang Qiani called me. Her Porsche was in the shop and she asked if I could give her a lift. I pulled up to her location and was surprised by how different she looked. Her skin was glowing and her look was elegant. She started joking about her tattoos being just stickers, making me realize just how much of a character she really is. She wanted to treat me to a fancy dinner to thank me for the investment lead, but I told her I had to keep working. She teased me for being a workaholic, saying I was like some mythic figure who only cares about my goals. Despite her teasing, I stayed focused. I have a long road ahead of me and I can't stop until the job is done. Wang Jiani's eyes were filled with fury, but I remained calm. I told her to get out. I had work to do. She was stunned. She is used to men falling at her feet, but I simply told her women only slow me down. Truth is, I am not uninterested in women. It is just that Zhao Feifei hurt me too much to start something new. I did not want a drama-filled relationship, so I shut the door on her before things could get complicated. A while later, I picked up an order at Kianda Plaza. I found a small girl being bullied by a massive man. The guy was screaming at her, claiming she knocked a shared bike into his BMW X3. She looked completely terrified. I do not usually meddle, but I could not leave her like that. I suggested they check the nearby bakery's surveillance. The man did not take kindly to my help. He threatened to smash my new car if I did not back off. I have dealt with bullies before. I looked him in the eye and told him to go ahead and smash it. He pulled out a baseball bat, laughing that my cheap Volkswagen was not worth the effort of the swing. As he rushed forward, I pulled the girl into my arms to protect her. She seemed surprised by my strength. I dared him again to turn my car into scrap metal. I was not afraid of a little chaos today, but just as he raised the bat, he stopped. He noticed the specific lettering on the car's emblem. He realized this was not a budget Passat. It was a Phaeton, a luxury beast worth millions of yuan. The change was instant. His arrogance vanished, replaced by a terrified, humble smile as he offered me a cigarette. He suddenly remembered that the wind must have knocked the bike over. He apologized profusely to the little girl. I chuckled, telling him I actually preferred his rebellious side. Then I helped the girl into the back seat. As we drove away, the crowd was left stunned. They finally realized the true value of the car they ignored.